Hey, yo, brothers, I came across this video today on TikTok, and the topic of conversation is jobs, the future of so-called black males, really so-called black children. What is the world going to look like in 10, 15 years from now? What is the world going to look like, brothers, if the government decides to take away Section 8 housing and government assistance such as food stamps and daycare vouchers and utility checks? You know, some of these women receive utility checks from the government or from the county that they live in. So we have to understand certain things. We've really been handicapped as a people. We've been babied and we've been coddled as a people. And when you coddle a child or you spoil a child, you spoil the rod, as they like to say. And what's going to happen is our people are going to get left behind while these other nations or races of people are excelling and advancing past us. So I'm gonna go ahead and tap into this.
I'm
Yeah,
looking at the future.
we don't see politics the same either.
Well, no, it's not
So
even
no,
that.
that's okay.
But I'm looking at the future for the young black males, or just young black, the next generation.
What does black go?
The next generation. Our kids, like when we have kids, our kids gonna have to compete against the world. It seems like we at home and we gotta.
Yes, that's the first thing we have to understand is we're not training our children to compete against the world. We're training our children to love the rest of the world and just love everybody and hold hands with everybody. Brothers, I will say this all the time. When you get hired on a job, the supervisor, the manager, he's white probably. The person in human resources is probably a so-called Caucasian person or probably a so-called Caucasian woman. The person that's hiring you and firing you 9 times out of 10 is probably a white male or white female. This is the reality of it. There are more millionaires. Something we have to understand, brothers, is Congress, Senate, the House of Representatives. These are positions that are dominated by so-called white men. When the white man runs for a political position and power, whether it be governor, Senate, whatever, all he has to do is appeal to his people. The so-called black man does not have that luxury. There's a such thing as strength in numbers. A third of so-called black men are incarcerated out of our quote-unquote 14% that we make up in this society as a people. When we start taking into the calculations, we are the smallest number. We are a small number of people and we don't support each other.
Against the world. I feel like that's not fair at all.
What are we competing for?
Jobs and opportunities.
What jobs do the Mexicans have that you want so bad that you have applied for? No.
That's the so-called black woman's issue. She doesn't understand that it's not just about the jobs that the Mexicans are applying for right now. It's the fact that 10, 15 years from now, as Mexicans flourish and come over here with their own culture, they come over here with a family structure, they start sending their children to school, whether it's college or trade school. They learn the business world. They learn the stock market. Next thing you know, Mexicans are an elite class of people. Next thing you know, the Mexican is up there with the Caucasian, competing with the Caucasian on the same level as the Caucasian, because they have a strong cultural framework that they can fit into. They have their own language. They have their own customs. They work together as a people. They have a sense of oneness. They have a sense of identity. That's something the so-called black man and the so-called black woman lack, is a sense of oneness, a sense of self. The so-called black man and so-called black woman have self-esteem issues. Don't know where to fit in society. You send the so-called black boy and girl to a public school educational system or school in a predominantly black community, they're going to come out effed up. Because the vast majority of those children in the black community are coming from single parent homes where there is no discipline, order, and structure in the household. That's what a man brings to the household. He brings discipline, order, and structure. He brings the essence of God and judgment when the man is operating in his true role and essence as a patriarchal figure in the home. That's something that's lacking severely. Not only do young boys and girls not have their father, but young women, older women, they don't have their husband. They don't have anybody leading them and guiding them. The woman is supposed to be moderated over. She's supposed to be regulated. There are supposed to be parameters placed on her that don't allow her to do whatever she wants. Because if you don't put parameters and guidelines and boundaries on what the woman can and cannot do, what's going to happen is you're going to have a society filled with harlots, lesbians, liberals, so on and so forth. All the things you see in this society. And this society is at the process in the beginning stages, or really the latter phases, possibly at crumbling and collapsing on itself. Because when you start destroying the household, it's only a matter of time before the system collapses.
See,
No,
that's
no.
why. When
What
we say
job do
immigration,
y'all
hold on.
need so bad that y'all have applied for that they got?
No. See, that's
Once again, I'm going to say this again, brothers. The so-called Mexican may not be a threat right now to you, but hypothetically, if this society goes on another 15, 20 years, the Mexican will be a problem for you because, once again, they have a stronger cultural framework than we do. 15, 20 years from now, they can build themselves up to something, and we're still at the same level. Actually, the so-called black woman now sees herself as her own race of people. So now everybody's trying to leave the so-called black man behind. The so-called black woman is leaving her man behind, and she's isolated on her own. This is all effed up, brothers.
why I said if you thinking immigration, you automatically went to Mexican. I'm saying
sorry,
immigration.
What immigration period? What job do they have
They got the tech
that
jobs.
you have applied for?
They got tech jobs.
Okay, but according to you and your knowledge, they're not citizens. How they getting tech jobs without a social security number? How they
they get paid under the
that?
table.
Oh goodness.
Are they not?
Brothers, I've worked in the food delivery industry before, and I will tell you that a lot of Mexicans are getting paid under the table. There are a lot of the Mexican restaurants that you see. They bring a lot of their relatives and family members. They bring them over here from across the border, and they work for them under the table. I walk into these business establishments, and many of them cannot speak English. Asking them, hey, where do you want your product? So on and so forth. They act like they can't speak any English. They act like they can't speak. Maybe they acting. Maybe it's an act. Possibly. But I know based on what I've seen and witnessed firsthand in the food industry, delivery industry before, is that a lot of Mexicans and Asians as well, that goes under the radar, but Mexicans and Asians are over here and are over here illegally and getting paid under the table, but they work together as a people so that they can thrive as a people.
Your thing.
Are they not?
Not. I wouldn't think not for a big corporation job. A tech job. Okay. But that's always in the back of my head.
The brother is getting rather flustered. He's scatterbrained because you're having a conversation with a so-called black woman, and instead of her trying to understand you, she's just looking for her chance to talk and express herself and articulate herself. The woman today is not submissive at all. She's not even submissive mentally. It's hard to get a word in edgewise with the so-called black woman today. She thinks that she's intellectually superior to you. She thinks that her brain works on a higher level than yours. That's what she's being told every time she opens up her phone. She thinks that she's on a higher level than you. She thinks she's more educated than you. She thinks she's more well-read than you. This is how the so-called black woman thinks. She doesn't respect the thought process of the average so-called black man, or really the majority of so-called black men. And that's why or men, period. And that's why when they start communicating, they have a hard time receiving information from a man. And that goes back to the father. It starts with them being able to receive instruction and correction from the father, so that when you out here having a conversation with your man, you know how to engage in proper dialogue with the man. The man has brought up various valid points, but they're going over her head because she's not listening. She's waiting for her turn to respond. And brothers, if a woman is constantly waiting on her turn to respond, understand that that's not a woman that's wifey. And just understand that. Most of these women aren't wifey. I really wouldn't recommend you brothers getting married in a society like this. Divorce is too high. You got songs out here about Moneybag Yo, like she got a nigga, he got to share. That she ate the dick through my underwear. Like these are the verses. These are the bars that are being played. What hip hop does is it exposes the culture. It isn't the culture. it exposes what the culture already is. It's a product of the culture. It's an offset and a byproduct and an offshoot of what our culture is. This is what our culture produces. Hip hop doesn't produce the culture. The culture has produced hip hop. There's a lot of adultery in the black community. A lot. There's a lot of adultery in America in general. And brothers, if you're getting married to a woman and she's going off to work every day and she's working around other men, I'm not saying your woman's getting sent to Pound Town necessarily, but there's a possibility. There's some guy that's flirting with her. There's some guy that she's having conversations with. She has to.
What job do they have that y'all have applied for that you were denied at?
Well, let's say this, brothers. Mexicans are construction workers. Mexicans work on roofs. Mexicans do landscaping. And Mexicans are known for doing these jobs for cheap and doing it efficiently. That makes it difficult for the so-called black man to go inside the field of construction or roofing or landscaping and getting work the same way. Just saying, that's now you have an extra competitor. You already are competing against the so-called Caucasian. Now you're competing against the Mexican. The Mexican is, proverbially speaking, replacing you. The so-called Caucasian is, his aspirations oftentimes are to go into the business world and go into the corporate world. The so-called Mexican, he is now taking all the blue-collar jobs away from the so-called black man. Because every so-called black man is not going to start his own business. That's just not going to happen in this type of society. But in general, the Mexicans are taking those jobs. We can start there, and then we can work our way up.
Hell, if you even get the opportunity.
Okay.
If you even get the
What
opportunity.
job is it? What job is it?
It's unfortunate the brother couldn't really articulate himself. And when a woman one-ups you like this in a conversation, she loses respect for you, and she sees herself as intellectually superior to you and you as mentally inferior to her. So that's going to cause problems in your relationship if they are in a relationship or whatever their dynamic is.
Look, like for black.
It can't be construction.
Yeah, it can be.
No, I'm saying it can't be. When I say it
That's
can't
a
be
high-paying
construction-
job.
No, I get that, but when I say it can't be construction, you don't see niggas doing construction.
No, you niggas.
That's a lie. That's not true. You see a lot of niggas doing construction. I live in the greater Cleveland area. A lot of the men that work for the city are in Cleveland and the Warrensville Heights and Maple Heights and Bedford Heights, the suburbs of Cleveland, the black suburbs of Cleveland. All these men that are working in the streets in the city, a lot of these men are so-called black men. A lot of so-called black men work for the city. Just saying, there are black men that are in construction. But if 2 or 3 different men apply, and a black man applies and a Mexican applies, they're probably going to take the Mexican just off of his culture. When you're a so-called black man and you come into a job and you call off, it's looked at differently than when somebody else calls off. Even if you really are sick, when the so-called black man calls off from work, he's looked at and perceived as lazy, incompetent, not reliable, just like how they perceive you to be those same things in the household. The so-called white man doesn't respect the so-called black man. He looks at the so-called black man and says, you get ran over by your woman. You're afraid of your wife.
Do be in construction, and this how they get out. The Mexican home. Let's say this group, the Latin. I don't want to say Mexican. You got Cubans.
I just say Mexican. I think that's a Texas thing. Give me everybody Mexican.
No, because I had some people correct me like I'm not Mexican. I'm Salvadorian. And I was
right,
like,
sure.
You know what, right? Because that's like somebody be like, oh, you Jamaican. I'll be like, nah, I ain't Jamaican. I'm black.
Yeah,
you know, type shit. So I try to respect that. You know.
What the hell does black mean? I'm black. Once again, this is why we have a lack of identity, because we associate ourselves with black.
I'm saying so, but you have an instance where you have, let's say me and you on a job at the construction site, right?
Okay.
You have a Latin dude go to the boss and be like snitching on us and shit, and they be like, well, I got a friend or a cousin or uncle, hard working, and they undermine us at the job.
Okay, what is he snitching on?
Yes, the spotlight is more on you as a so-called black man. When you're a so-called black man and you mess up at a job, it's looked differently than when a so-called white man or so-called Mexican messes up on a job, especially if your supervisors and managers are all so-called white men. Brothers, I've worked at companies and I've had a black supervisor before. He was a Jamaican brother, island brother. And he was one of my supervisors at one of my jobs, and he would tell me, they wanted me to write you up for that. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I'd be like, man, he been working his ass off. They don't see it. I've had black managers and supervisors tell me that this brother was someone that was educated, college educated. Brother was in his late 30s, early 40s, in that age range, looking out for you. A lot of jobs don't have so-called black men that are in high positions or high enough positions in management where they can do that, where they have the clout to do that, to override a write-up. We don't have enough representation in the corporate field, corporate offices to protect ourselves. The so-called black woman, if she enters human resources, she's looking out for herself and she's going to cover her ass. She's not looking out for you. These are things we got to understand, brothers. We have to consider these things when we enter corporate environments or enter any environment. We got to go into environments understanding, look, I need to go into an environment that I feel protected in. If you're at a job, you should consider joining a job that has a union. Your union has to protect you. It has to back you. They will fight for you. Have supervisors and managers that are in a high position that you have a good relationship with and have a good rapport with them, black or white. Hopefully they're so-called black and they look out for you. But in general, you have to understand these things before you go into a job. If you have a job mindset.
Because are we breaking laws?
No.
Are we breaking rules?
No.
So what is he snitching on?
Just to get us out the way. We're a competition to them. We're a competition.
Yeah, he doesn't see you as a brother. He sees you as a coworker. You somebody I work with and we come to work and we diddly and dally. But outside of work, I'm not bringing you. You're not my nigga for real. You're not my people's for real. I'm gonna look out for my own before I look out for you. That's how that goes.
We're competition, and they'll do it for the low.
No.
Because we know our worth. We're not about to be doing no shit for no, no.
No. Yes, they will do it for a lower price. The so-called Mexican will work for a lower price and do work that is twice the amount that he's getting paid. So that's what you have to understand. That's what you're up against. So the so-called black man, you have to understand these things before you start entering the workforce. You got to understand what the opposition is against you. But so-called black men, honestly, we don't like each other. We competing against each other for the black woman. We all going against each other and we all dogging out each other. We all speaking lowly and negatively against each other for the so-called black woman. It amazes me. We adulterous, we're covetous, all these things. So until we get rid of that and we learn how to come together as brothers and stop sleeping with other niggas' baby mamas and passing hoes around like that. I mean, it is what it is right now because we just in this society. But I'm just saying in general, man, when a brother has a family, we supposed to encourage a woman to go back to that man that she had a baby with. I've dealt with women that have children, but in general, you got to understand, like, in a real society, we're not supposed to be able to do that. We supposed to encourage that woman to go back with that man, and unless fornication or adultery is involved, there's no reason for it. But anyways, brothers, I'm gonna go ahead and sign out of this. I think we get the point.